Hi everybody, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. By now I hope you've seen my video called Jazz Piano Where to Start. It's an exercise about doing 2-5-1s using only 7s and 3rds in your right hand and root notes with your left hand. So now that you're comfortable playing roots with your left hand, 3rds and 7s with your right hand, and moving through the circle of 4ths playing 2-5-1s, sounds like I'm talking in a whole other language right there. I kind of am, aren't I? But now that you're more comfortable with that, hopefully you are anyway, I'd like to show you how to do it on a tune, and we're just going to use Misty. I have written a worksheet for this video, but as always, I prefer that you don't use it. If you can do it, I prefer that you just watch my hands. I'm going to show it to you and figure out how to do it on your own. We're going to be playing roots with our left hand, 3rds and 7s with the bottom part of our right hand, and also covering the melody of Misty with the upper part of our right hand. So let me show you how to do it, and if you would like to, you can click on the card right above my head and get the worksheet if you'd like. It looks like this. And it's all written out right there for you. But if you can do it on your own without the worksheet, that's what I highly, highly encourage. I think you'll learn a little better. All right, as you can see on the worksheet, I've got the melody going on, and I've got 3rds and 7s going on, and that's pretty much it. But it's a little bit difficult to keep them both up at the same time. Look at the first couple of chords. E flat major, B flat minor, E flat 13, A flat major. Let's go that far without the melody for a second, just to show you kind of how to simplify this if this is too hard for you. So E flat major 7. Remember, if I say major or minor, we're just going to always assume that I include the 7. That's kind of how jazz players talk. So we've got E flat major. That means we have an E flat, and we're going to play the 3rd and the 7. That is like the basic point of today's lesson, that we're able to play the root and the 3rd and the 7 on all of these chords. So, right? And this note is actually the melody note. It just ends up right there, it's the 7, so it's included. So sometimes we'll have the melody note plus the 3rd and 7 and the root, and sometimes the melody note will be the 3rd or the 7. Do, do, do. Again, the melody note is the 3rd. Do, 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 do. And you can see just from this little bit that sometimes the 3rd's on the bottom and sometimes the 7's on the bottom, right? So for that E flat major chord, we've got the 3rd of E flat major is on the bottom. But then when we go to the B flat minor chord, it's the 7th that's on the bottom. And almost always we're going to go back and forth between the 3rd being on the bottom and the 7th being on the bottom, because that way we have the least amount of movement in these notes here with our left thumb and our right thumb and index finger. We have the least amount of movement, right? If we were going to keep the 3rd on the bottom all the time, then our next 3rd and 7 from E flat major to B flat minor would have to be all the way up here, and that just doesn't sound good. Here's the difference. Here's how it should be, with the 3rd moving to the 7, and then here's how it would be in Crazy Universe. And it's also a Crazy Universe because the melody note would then be on the bottom. We don't want to do that. The melody note needs to be on the top of whatever we're doing. I'll just show you a little bit how it'll sound. It's not incredibly beautiful, but it is incredibly basic and carries every element that you're going to need to go to the next step. And unless you can do this, I don't want you to move to the next step. This is a very, very important step. But before you even add the melody at all, please go through the tune, make sure that you can just play the chords without any melody. So you're going to play the root, the third, and the 7, and that's it. And you can sing the melody if you want to. That'll make it sound better to you. But you don't have to. So we've got E flat major, B flat minor, E flat 7, or E flat 13. We call it an E flat 13 because the melody is the 13. Right? There's the melody. Kitten up a tree. So sometimes, even though we really should be calling a chord just E flat 7, we'll call it E flat 13 for no better reason than the melody note is the 13. So there's our third and 7, right? A flat major, 7 and third. Da 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 da. A flat minor. Da. Here's another case where the actual chord is called A flat minor 9, and it's because of the melody note. That's the 9. But we've just got the root note, the flat 7, the flat third, because we're in a minor chord. Now the third comes on the bottom, and the 7 is here. Now we're to E flat major, and the melody note happens to be the third, so we'll leave that as it is. That'll just kind of dictate for us that the 7 goes on the bottom because the melody note's the third. That's C minor. There's the 7, there's the third. F minor. Now the next chord is B flat 7, and we've got the 7 of F minor here and the third of F minor here on top. But do you know what the next melody note is? Da, 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 da. So it actually makes it so easy. All we have to do is change this note from here to here for B flat 7. But we have to have it be the top note. So we're going to add the 7 down here. It's kind of a crazy principle and a little bit difficult to do. I want to make sure you understand that. Let's go back to the F minor chord. So the melody note is up here. It's the third of F minor, right? And we put the 7 on the bottom, and there's the melody note. So the next melody note is a D, which is the third of B flat dominant. So even though it would be so nice to keep this A flat, for our purposes of putting the melody note on the top, we're going to drop this A flat down to our left thumb so that the melody note, which is the third of B flat dominant, can be on top. Now we've got the 7 and the third of G7, and C7 comes next. Can you see where those are? They're really close. And then we have F7, and those are right there too. And B flat 7 is right there. So that's kind of cool. We're just going around the circle of fifths. We're going from G down to C, to F, to B flat. And when you do that, your thirds and 7s are always, they're just going to walk down half steps. It's really nice. It's like a barbershop quartet harmony. They do that all the time. Thirds and 7s that just chromatically go down. Especially on dominant chords. That's a characteristic of barbershop harmony. And then the song repeats. It goes back. Sometimes your fingering will be a little tricky and you might have to make a switch like this. See, so if you want to keep holding that note, but you know that your next note in the melody is going to be here, so you just make a little switch. It's like that's an organ player trick. You know, you might have said, Aimee, why didn't you just play the pedal right there to hold on to that C note? I'm not even using the pedal. I don't want to use the pedal when I do this. I want to make sure that I know how to cover every note and just make it really clean. Now we're on an E flat major chord. Here's the melody, here's the root, here's our third and 7. Now this is a part this is a part of the game where we're just going to switch it a little bit because the next chord is a B flat 9 sus. And we do need to play that 9. We're just going to make an exception where we're not even going to be playing the sus note or the 3rd and the 7 like per se right here. Just for this part, we're just going to skip that rule just to make it sound kind of nice and keeping in the theme of how we're playing. This is the next part where we're also going to break the rules a little bit because the chords are just B flat minor, and then we have a B flat minor with a major 7, a B flat minor with a minor 7. So it's this motion that we need of a B flat to an A flat to a G. And we have to make sure that happens. So in order to make that happen, I double the root here. So we don't have any kind of 7 on this chord. We do have the 3rd because it's in the melody, but we need this motion of root, sharp 7, or natural 7, flat 7, and then the 3 of the E flat chord. I'll show you how that'll look. This is an A flat 7, this is an A flat major 7 chord. Now we have a B flat minor chord, which is here. We're going to put in the 3rd and the 7. And it's a quick E flat 7 to an A flat major. Now this is where our 2-5-1s will come in really, really handy because that's what we've been practicing. Right? A minor 11 is the name of this chord. Why is it A minor 11? Well, it's A minor, right? We've got the minor 3rd, the flat 7. There it is. That's our 11. It's in the melody again. Now we've got a D7 chord. All we have to do is just come down here. And if you've been doing the exercise from the other video, you know that. It just resolves nicely. Now we go to an F7. Da, 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 da. B flat 7. Da. This is another part where we need to break the rules a little bit because it's an E diminished chord. So we're just gonna, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna do it. We'll play the B flat 7 chord. We've got the root up here, or the melody note in the top, and the 3rd and the 7. Now we're gonna play every note of E diminished, but we're gonna spread them out a little bit to keep some nice voice leading. See that? So G is one that we needed, but we've got it right here. B flat is one that we needed, but we've got it in the melody, and we add the D flat. F minor 11, because we've got a B flat in the melody. I know I'm kind of skipping back and forth between, do I put the melody in there? Do I not put the melody in there? So for a second, to finish the song, let's not put the melody in at all. Let's just play 3rds and 7s. But sometimes I kind of need you to see it. I need you to see where the melody note's at because that's how we decide what to put on top. Does that make sense? So now I'm just going to sing the melody note and play the rest, just for the rest of the tune. Da 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 So from the beginning, without any melody, it's gonna go like this. I'll just play like the first 8 bars. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. or 6 bars, good enough, right? You should be able to do that with a metronome in time. You'll have the chords right in front of you, right? You can have them all written out, just your nice chord sheet. Just write out the names of the chords, and then you can do that. You can just play root, third, 7. And if you don't get it right, I mean, if you don't have the 3rd on the bottom or the 7 on the bottom in the right place at the beginning, that's okay. Don't worry about that. You need to worry about that when you've got the melody going on. But if you don't even have the melody going on, it doesn't matter a lot. Just don't be real jumpy in your changing from chord to chord, all right? Make sure that you're always moving the least amount possible to get from E flat major 7 to B flat minor. And I'll be just fine with that, even though that's not how we're going to do it when the melody comes in. The melody kind of brings a whole other factor. I mean, if we were just going to do it without the melody, that's the smoothest voice leading, isn't it? E flat major, B flat minor, E flat 7, A flat major, A flat minor, D flat 7, and then we'll have to do a little skip. We can hop right back up to the E flat major chord. Once the melody comes in, it's a whole new ball game, and it makes it a little more difficult. And if there's a reason to order the worksheet, I suppose this is it, so that you can see how to keep the melody on top and make sure that you're hitting 3rds and 7s every time. I know this isn't probably the way that you would want to play this to impress girls or boys at parties, or to show your parents that you've learned something. They might not think it's so cool. I get that. This is for you. This isn't for anybody else right here. This isn't how you're gonna, work something up for a gig. This isn't your finished product. But this is your basic thing. You've got to learn 3rds and 7s and roots and how to put the melody on top. It's also a beautiful thing. And as you do this, you're gonna come up with ideas, and I'm gonna show you too how to add more ideas to your playing, so that after you've got that and you're good at playing 3rds and 7s, you can add the other notes that make it more colorful, 9s and 13s and altered tones, and you can make it kind of flowery. I have a feeling that a lot of you already know how to make things a little bit flowery. But add the pedal after you've got this and make it beautiful, even just with what it is. Play it with some delicacy. With some feeling, A little rubato. Chord tones and just kind of play them up there in the holes. You can play a little passing tone in between your bass notes. Scale tones to walk down to where you're going. Now, instead of just this, you can add an octave. You can take that A flat like I just did, and you know that it's going to go to a G. And instead you can just walk it up a little bit. little tricks you can use to make it more beautiful. But I mean, you know, your friends and family probably won't think it's so beautiful, but it will be beautiful to you because you understand the beauty that there is in simplicity and in understanding the bare bones of how we put chords together and how we start to build something magical. As you're doing this, a really fun idea is to find a recording of Misty that you really like and play along with it. It's a little bit tricky to find Misty in the original key as you're searching for recordings. Like if you're going to look at Sarah Vaughan or Ella Fitzgerald singing this tune, you're probably not going to find it in E flat. But there's a nice recording that I really like of it. Freddie Hubbard plays on an album called Sweet Return, and he plays with Joanne Brackeen, Eddie Gomez, Roy Haynes, and that's a lovely version. He plays a long introduction, but you know, wait for him, come in and play your roots, play your thirds and your sevens along with Freddie Hubbard. It's a nice slow tempo, and it's gonna give you way more fun than a metronome will, and you'll be able to be making music with some great cats. Well, that's just another little tip to keep you having fun. I always want you to have fun while we do this, and that's why I don't want you to stay with that exercise very long. After you feel like you've got that exercise under your belt, you need to be putting these ideas into tunes. And Misty is a great place to start. It might be the most standardy of all the standards. All right, everybody, thanks for watching Aimee Nolte Music. Have fun with this, and I'll see you next time.